KOEI TECMO, the hired gun of the Japanese games industry. KOEI TECMO is cool in part because they consistently collaborate with other companies by using their IPs and delivering a game that gives a unique perspective on a given franchise. Collaborators the likes of Square Enix, Nintendo, and even Marvel have lended their IPs to KOEI TECMO. Omega Force, a division of KOEI TECMO, and the developers of the Warriors or Musou series are responsible for a lot of the license outings from KOEI TECMO. When they aren't making a new entry in one of their own Warriors franchises, Omega Force is known to apply their signature action hack-and-slash formula to big game IPs like The Legend of Zelda, Dragon Quest, Persona, and Fate. Besides their work on popular IPs, Omega Force has a few franchises of their own. Well, it's really one franchise that gets split three different ways. Dynasty Warriors, the first Warriors franchise that is focused on the Three Kingdoms era of China, a time of plagues, famines, and of course, war. Strangely, the franchise begins with a fighting game called Dynasty Warriors, and then comes the real first Dynasty Warriors with all of its hack-and-slash glory, or as we call it in the West, Dynasty Warriors 2. The second split comes in the form of Samurai Warriors, which at least in premise differs from Dynasty Warriors in that it takes place in Japan during the Sengoku period. Similarly though, there's a lot of war. The third is crazy. Warriors Orochi. This is where the Serpent King Orochi cuts through time and space to bring together both Dynasty and Samurai Warriors. They just can't help but collaborate, even with themselves. At the time of writing, Dynasty Warriors Origins has just been released to everyone. This game is the 10th entry in the mainline Dynasty Warriors franchise, the first without being a numbered entry. According to translation work done by Silicon Era, programmer Masamichi Oba spoke in an interview with 4Gamer about how he and director Masahiro Oshima had been working on Dynasty Warriors 10 before it was ultimately cancelled. They wanted to make a game going back to the basics of the franchise, make it appealing to those unfamiliar with the romance of the Three Kingdoms, and explore the story in a deeper manner. Those creative decisions are the very reason I'm making this video. It worked. Consider me appealed. It's not just me that is taking a liking to this game. The game currently has a Metacritic of 80, a high for the franchise. 95% overwhelmingly positive on Steam with 2,500 reviews. The game as of writing has peaked at 52,000 concurrent players. I think Dynasty Warriors Origins marks an important shift for KOEI TECMO as a whole. I think this game is the first sign that their strategy might actually work. Put simply, create AAA banger video games. A strategy that I think started with the release of Nioh by Team Ninja in 2017, which received critical praise and commercial success, garnering a Metacritic score of 88 and selling 3 million units worldwide by February 2020. This game opened KOEI TECMO's eyes to what they could become. Nioh 2, also by Team Ninja, follows in 2020, receiving continued praise with a Metacritic of 85 and selling 2.5 million units by February 2022. Combined, Nioh and Nioh 2 had sold over 7 million units by October 2022. Wolong Fallen Dynasty, yet again from Team Ninja, released in March 2023, receives positive reviews outside of Steam's mixed response citing performance problems. Despite that, in a day one inclusion in Microsoft's Game Pass subscription, Wolong would go on to sell over 1 million units by April, just a month after its release. For a brand new IP, that's remarkable. I consider it a sign that Team Ninja have carved out a growing number of fans that recognize the general quality of their games. That's so important. Earlier that year in 2023, KOEI TECMO partnered with EA, released another game, which was not developed by Team Ninja, Wild Hearts, helmed by Omega Force, a Monster Hunter type game that received fairly favorable reviews but was unable to live up to the expectations that KOEI TECMO had for it, to be another pillar franchise alongside Dynasty Warriors. That's according to game director Kotaro Hirata in an interview with The Verge. We never got reported sales numbers for Wild Hearts, a sign that a company isn't exactly excited to share the results, and support for the game ended just 7 months after launch. What follows is another attempt at the ever-so-appealing AAA banger, this time aimed solely at the PlayStation audience. Developed by Team Ninja and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment exclusively for the PS5, Rise of the Ronin released on March 22, 2024. The game was reviewed fairly favorably, but in 2024, competition and expectations were high. The game was released the very same day as Dragon's Dogma 2. It was also sandwiched between two other highly anticipated PS5 exclusives in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth the month before and Stellar Blade the month after. Rise of the Ronin just couldn't rise up to the competition. I get the sense nor could it rise to the lofty expectations of Koei Tecmo. Their goal was for Rise of the Ronin to eventually sell 5 million units. Chief Operating Officer Hiyashi Koinuma citing the Neo series selling 7 million as their benchmark, eventually even to aim for 10 million sellers down the line. We don't know how much Rise of the Ronin has sold so far. It was said that its sales were pacing ahead of Neo a month after launch, a vague statement that some took as good news, but I personally don't think that pace held. It's important to remember that some of the cost of development was incurred by Sony. Koei Tecmo has no problem sharing revenue with Sony today if it means that they are building a strong foundation that can sustain their own in-house AAA video games in the future. Koei Tecmo doesn't seem to be shying away from Rise of the Ronin, despite its lukewarm response. It's possible they see it as a slow and steady seller, and we may actually get a sequel in the future. I would suspect at least a PC port is on the way. Turns out, it's hard making AAA bangers. Even story developers like Team Ninja can struggle to get an undeniable success. But Dynasty Warriors Origins shows us that Team Ninja doesn't have to do it alone. Koei Tecmo is strengthening its forces, and its investments into its studios are paying off. Talent is rising at a megaforce. The same people who put out the ill-received Dynasty Warriors 9 did not make Dynasty Warriors Origins. Instead, it was directed by studio veteran Kazutoshi Sekiguchi and relative newcomer Mitsuhiro Oshima. They have delivered a new vision for the Dynasty Warriors franchise and strengthened the pillar of a megaforce to match that of a warrior. Koei Tecmo has a lot of plates spinning, and as they focus on creating fewer, more impactful games, I think they will find larger success. For now though, we look forward to an unannounced game from a new AAA studio, a 2D Ninja Gaiden revival from the makers of Blasphemous in a rare instance of Koei Tecmo acting as the IP lender, and 2 Atelier games set for release in 2025. Is that right? 2 brand new games from the same franchise? From the same day? That can't be right.